Yo, D-Lo 404 here. Want to make a quick video this morning on my way into work. Feeling a little down this morning. I missed the Smoke City Mobcast last night for the first time. So I had to try to find time this morning while I'm working to listen to it at my desk. Hopefully I can stay focused on what I got to do this morning while I listen to it. I'm pretty sure it was a great show. I had some stuff going on, just couldn't find time to tune in last night, and I didn't want to come in on the tail end of the show. I just made my mind up I was going to come back and watch it, watch and listen to the whole show at work this morning. But anyway, what I want to talk about this morning is these potential. I see that they're trying to come up with new suitors, secondary options for AJ's date of April 13th, 2019. Saw the videos out there about AJ and Hearn sending over a contract to Wilder that by all accounts seemed to be worse than the contract that they already had sent, that Wilder pretty much said he's not going to agree to for April. Also contract that he pretty much said he wasn't going to agree to as it was written, that they needed to make some revisions in it to make that contract acceptable, and if they made those revisions, he would sign and go ahead and go ahead and get the ball rolling on that fight that they wanted in August, September. I mean, but that was never done. So Wilder never signed the fight, and of course there was this campaign running around. Wilder lost his pen, signed the contract. The contract was never acceptable to sign. I mean, he agreed to terms with reservations, saying that, hey, if this and this gets put in there and gets taken care of, yeah, I'll go ahead and sign. But all of that was for a fight this year. That was for the next fight. I think September was the date they really were looking at, which, of course, we all know the story. Eddie Hearn said September. Wembley wasn't available in September. But yet they had his fight lined up with Sasha for September. And they actually had two September dates that they had, a choice. Two I think it was 22nd and 29th or something. I don't know, I don't have a calendar in front of me, but whatever, 2 consecutive Saturdays that they had a choice on making the fight. But, those dates, of course, weren't available for Wilder. So, all of that is how we ended up with Wilder not signing the contract, and then the fake WBA demand that they get the fight made with Povetkin, or else. And then, even Hearn came out and said they just wouldn't have been stripped. So it's like, okay, if he wasn't in jeopardy of getting stripped, why the hell did y'all not go ahead and tell them, hey, we're still negotiating Wilder, we'll have a fight made in a couple days? I know the answer to that. That was a rhetorical question. They didn't want to fight Wilder. It was much to do about nothing. Just like this new contract they sent over. So, with all of that in place, there's been this push for finding another suitable opponent that they can sell the public. Sell the public, sell the fight fans for Anthony Joshua facing in April. Yeah, there's a group of people out there that it don't matter who he's fighting. I mean, they're gonna build him up as some great challenge, and give him all the credit in the world. That's what they do. But the reality is, I think Hearn even knows that at this point they better have somebody of substance, or they're going to continue to this downward spiral of in public perception that everything isn't as they've led people to believe. So I've seen that they're talking about and he may not be. I've since seen that he may not be the opponent for April, but I'll mention him anyway. Alexander Usyk. He could always be an option if he moved up to heavyweight, but they basically gonna put him in a position of being able to challenge for, I think it's the WBA title, which, I mean, if he challenges for that one, he'll probably challenge for all of them anyway, but I think the WBA is the sanctioning body that's going to put him in a position to be able to get a title shot, just off of being their champion at Cruiser. But what I think about him as far as value, name recognition, I mean, I think he's a good fighter, really good fighter. I think he as far as is that going to be as noteworthy of an opponent as Wilder? Of course not even close. I mean, prime example of that is they win this cruiserweight tournament and the championship fight wasn't even picked up by American television. If it was picked up, it was in the 11th hour and I didn't know about it and I didn't catch it. But I know all the way up until like the last few days, as far as I know, no American outlet had picked up that fight. And quite frankly, the cruiserweights just, in the last decade or so, just it's never been a division that the American outlets really put any kind of push behind. Now that's not his fault, as this division he campaigning in right now. But the man did what he was supposed to do. He cleaned up the division. I mean, he's captured every title he can capture in the division. And he's made a name for himself. But I just don't know that. I just don't see any way possible that putting him in there is going to satisfy or quench the thirst of those wanting that big fight, wanting to see AJ versus Wilder. Okay, they talking about Dillian White. Dillian White, of course, he's beating AJ. He beat AJ in the. He did beat AJ in the amateurs. Lost to AJ in the professionals when they were both pretty much prospects. Although AJ's fans will say, act like, they were both, like Dillian White was 30-0 or something coming in that fight and had done beat some name opponents. I mean, Dillian White hadn't done anything coming in that fight. He was coming off of a steroid suspension and really, seemed to be still trying to figure out how he wants to box. But I mean, it was a good fight. I mean, I watched it. I watched the fight more than once. I think it was a good fight. White hurt AJ at one point. AJ eventually dropped him and stopped him. Really good fight. But I'm not gonna. I'm not one that's gonna sit there and act as if that was some world beater and that AJ beat. I mean, I don't think Dillian White's a world beater now. I mean, his fight with Chisora, very, very close fight. It's one of them things where, like, to me, it's one of those fights where the guy that had the most to gain by winning the fight got the decision because he had the most to gain by winning the fight. But it could have gone either way. I mean, I felt Chisora won the fight, but I have no complaints with White getting the decision either. I mean, but it was a fight that, in my opinion, definitely demanded. I mean, it would have been an immediate rematch if I was promoting the fight. White also, that, and I mentioned Chisora because I think that's actually White's biggest win. I think more Chisora than I think of Joseph Parker. Chisora's fought some good opponents. Win or lose, he has a decent resume. Joseph Parker hadn't fought. The guys Joseph Parker fought, most of them he won very close decisions against, much like White's decision against Chisora. Felt like Joseph Parker could get those decisions because he had momentum behind him, and he was the face of New Zealand boxing. But Joseph Parker's never been impressive. The most impressive thing Joseph Parker done was be the first boxer to not get knocked out by AJ and not get in a position for the ref to stop the fight against AJ. But at the same time, he wasn't impressive because he allowed the ref to mess up his fight. Sorry, I dropped my phone. I hit my brakes and the phone fell. But anyway, he didn't. It's kind of like what Dylan White was saying to him in their face-off. You know, that he kind of just did enough to try to survive, and he had opportunities, he didn't take them. And I don't even think it was a matter of him fearing what was coming back. I just think that's just the temperament he has. I just don't think he's that type of guy that's just going to, you know, in a big moment really just going to go for it. I think he's just, you know, going to try to outbox a guy, and if he gets him in a position to hurt him, he'll do it. But it's like we got to really press the issue to hurt a guy. I just don't know that he has the mentality to do that. But you know, so there's another, you know, now I mentioned Joseph Parker, there's another opponent that AJ gets, you know, all this credit for winning because he lifted the belt off of him. But the guy, well, you know, I mean, had Tyson Fury not been out of the picture because of his own personal issues, I don't see Parker as a guy who could have beat Tyson Fury and got that belt. So he picked up a vacant belt, thus the term paper champion. AJ got it from him, thus the term paper champion. Same thing goes with Charles Martin. Charles Martin wouldn't have beat Fury. Charles Martin wouldn't have beat Vlad, not in my opinion. Parker wouldn't have beat Vlad either. So, you know, those guys were fortunate that Fury beat Vlad in a snooze fest, and, you know, they were able to get those titles when Fury messed up. You know, but I'll go ahead and you know, talk about you know, the next guy that's being mentioned as an opponent. And, you know, that guy is or at least I think they've thought of as an opponent anyway, and that being Tyson Fury. And I think that you know, that ship may have sailed because, you know, Fury's negotiation with Wilder, and I think that fight's gonna happen unless we're all being trolled. I think the fight between Wilder and Fury will happen, and if that happens, I don't see a scenario where, you know, I don't think Fury beats Wilder, so I'm not gonna pretend as if Fury's gonna be there for them to fight. I mean, they could fight him coming off a loss against Wilder. But, I mean, I guess if Fury beats Wilder, he could be an opponent. But I think they run into all kind of negotiation issues. You know, if it's one of them things where if they're not respecting Wilder to give him his, you know, proper respect at the negotiating table, I just can't envision them doing so for Fury either on the strength of a win over Wilder. And you know, and maybe I'm wrong, but and I think even if, you know, they go back to Wilder, if Wilder, and I'm hoping Wilder gets a fight in before the Fury fight. I'm hoping he get Dominic Breazeale out of the way. If Wilder beats Breazeale and then beats Fury, and then they come back to, okay, Wilder, we want you in April, I think the zone is going to be an issue. I also think the other issue is going to be that, you know, they're still not going to show Wilder any more respect. You know, I think it's one of them things where the disrespect has a lot to do with the fact that they're just not interested in Wilder as an opponent. I think they're interested in him. It's kind of like AJ saying, you know, give me $50 million and I'll take the fight. That was to me, what I saw there and heard was a guy who was like, I'm not really interested in fighting this guy, but if I can get $50 million up front, if y'all think it's a $100 million fight and I get $50 million up front, I'll fight him for that. And it's like that was what he said, you know, and I think that's how he felt. And I think their negotiations have been from the jump has been we don't really want to fight this guy, but if he'll let us have all the money and we give him a flat fee and we can get all the money made on the back end, we'll fight him because it's worth it to us then. But it's only worth it to us if we can get all the money. If we can get all of the money, or initially AJ thought that if he can get $50 million, it made sense. And then, you know, of course, Eddie came in and, you know, they decided that no, that wasn't even enough money. You know, when they thought about it and looked at everything, and, you know, I don't know if Eddie don't really believe the fight's going to be as big as it would be in America, to where they're really going to make, you know, they could make upwards of 80, 90, $100 million. But then again, I mean, maybe fighting in the UK and giving Wilder a flat fee of $12.5 or $15 million, and they keep all of that money on the back end. Hell, they may make more than that. I mean, I don't know. You know, it depends on how good it does in the US. I think it'll do better in the UK than any other fight that AJ's had to date. I mean, I think the Klitschko fight done the best. I think it'll surpass that, because Wilder's not coming off of a 2-year layoff. Wilder's not coming off of a ugly loss. You know, Wilder's not 42 years old. So I'm sure that it will be a fight where even the diehard AJ fans don't know the outcome of the fight, don't know if AJ's gonna win that fight, and they would have, and anybody watching knows anything about boxing, follow anything do with Wilder, knows that the guy knocked out every single person that been in the ring with him. So, and has hurt everybody, you know what I'm saying? I mean, even in the first Stavern fight, I felt like he hurt Stavern badly at the end of a round. I can't remember which round it was. I actually dropped Stavern, but the ref didn't count it as a knockdown. But he hurt Stavern. I think he hurt him badly right at the end of a round, kind of like he done Luis Ortiz, and dropped him pretty badly. But Stavern, you know, the bell had rang right as Wilder dropped him. So, and if I remember correctly, Wilder was against the ropes, and Stavern, he dropped Stavern to his knees right in front of himself, right there while he was against the ropes. I may be wrong. I had to go back and look at it, but anyway, it happened. You know, Stavern got hurt right at the bell. The ref didn't rule it a knockdown, It went on to, you know, Stavern went to the corner, he recovered. They came back and, you know, they boxed, and the fight ended up going 12 rounds. And I mean, honestly, Wilder outboxed the guy for 12 rounds. And, you know, Wilder supposedly not a good boxer. You know, is supposed to be only a one-trick pony. The guy with big power, and that's all he has. But, you know, so I think, you know, when it comes to, you know, that fight, it's definitely a fight that AJ is not just favored by a landslide to win, and everybody realizes that, you know, even his most dedicated fans realize that there's a good chance that he can get hurt, dropped badly in that fight, and also get knocked out. So the intrigue is there on both sides. You know, the anticipation of the fight, I mean, the build-up of the fight, you know, it could be incredible. And, you know, that fight, none of those guys I mentioned, and I'll even, you know, throw Big Baby in there, because they got that built-in animosity with each other after the zone debut, where they got each other's faces and, you know, did a whole bunch of tongue wrestling. But then, you know, nobody really, you know, neither one of them really seemed to want to do anything, just run their mouth. And I mean, I'm not saying I'm for all of that fighting outside of the ring or anything like that. I mean, I don't want to see what happened between Rockman and Lewis at ESPN Studios. I mean, I don't want to see something like that. I don't want to see guys fighting at press conferences and stuff like that. I want to see the fights in the ring. I don't want a guy to get hurt and the fight not happen because they got into a altercation outside the ring and some guy got hurt and all of a sudden the fight got to get postponed, or or a guy, the fight never happens, because, so, you know, I don't want to see all that. So I don't want to see the antics that Chisora, you know, when he was getting ready to fight, I can't remember which Klitschko he was getting ready to fight, but he, you know, I think he spit water in the guy's face, and then him and David Hay even had a fight before the fight. Now, I don't see all that. I mean, all that stuff's you know, that's just a little too far. I mean, I like to see the guys, you know, having that, you know, that adrenaline and guys really getting into it, but, you know, I don't want to see anybody get hurt before a fight. But with the Big Baby situation, of course, you know, Eddie Hearn's been, you know, pushing Big Baby, and even had this fight at Barclays, that right there in Brooklyn where Big Baby resides, where he's from, that, you know, when you compare how the arena looked, the Wilder fighting at the Barclays, it wasn't, you know, wasn't even close. It was like it was half the capacity. But of course, Wilder doesn't sell if you know, listen to Hearn. You know, Wilder's probably the, you know, as far as non-pay-per-view goes, Wilder's probably does better views than any boxer in America. You know, that any current boxer. If he doesn't do the best, he's right there top, you know, 2 or 3. But I'm thinking that he does the best viewership, you know, when he's on Showtime. You know, the arena, there's asses in seats when Wilder fights at the Barclays. Big Baby's from Brooklyn, and that venue was not packed to the gills like you would think with a brash Brooklyn guy in a fight. And especially the fact that he was fighting another guy that Wilder had already beaten. So it was kind of a, you know, in a way you could call that a measuring stick to see how he would do against a guy Wilder beat some years ago. And you know, he ended up going the distance with the guy. Wilder knocked the guy out. You know, Big Baby not really a knockout puncher, and so, you know, that doesn't really sell. You know, so that has a lot to do with it. But you know what, I just don't think any of those guys, you know, bring the value that Wilder brings, and all that. You know, it's just one of them things where they want to get that fight done. There's going to have to be fair at the negotiation table with Wilder. The guy brings value. I don't care how much money he hasn't been making or has made or whatever. I mean, you're worth what you can generate. And in this fight, that fight's big because of those two guys together. Their names together rings bells. Their names together is why nobody really talking about Triple G and Canelo rematch, because the anticipation, so much anticipation there to see these two big heavyweights go at it. These two big so-called, you know, knockout artists. You know, one guy's a knockout artist, the other guy has a bunch of stoppages and a bunch of knockouts, but I don't think he's a knockout artist. But regardless, together their name is a headliner that is unparalleled right now in boxing. I mean, I'd even dare say that if Manny Pacquiao and Floyd Mayweather came back and decided to give it another run, yeah, for the casual John Q consumer who's not really a boxing fan but is a fan of, you know, the big name guys, they'll tune in. So yeah, of course, that fight would probably still get more interest right now than Wilder and Joshua, just because of those two guys are really, really, really mainstream global superstars. Even if they're old, it's just one of them things where their name is synonymous with boxing right now. And you know, the guys who aren't avid boxing fans like myself, and probably like anyone who's watching the video, you know, they are not thinking about that these guys aren't really that relevant to boxing right now. But, you know, but there's no shame in coming second to a Pacquiao Mayweather. You know, the reality is that these guys are where it is right now in boxing. You know, Wilder and Joshua, that's the hot topic in boxing. It has been for over a year now. And it's a fight that needs to get made. You know, it's just one of them things where, you know, guys just have to get out of the way and say, okay, let's get this fight made. And, you know, people have to stop worrying about what could happen and just let the fight happen. There was no hesitation. There was no hesitation to put AJ in there with Vlad because AJ had so much to gain. And it was one of them things where even if he lost, because of who he would have lost to, and they had the rematch clause in place, who he would have lost to, it would have been an acceptable loss. Because there was none of it. There was not a smear campaign out there saying that Vlad wasn't, hadn't done anything and this, that, and the other. And I love the Klitschko's. I always did. But you could poke holes in Vlad's resume just like you can anybody else's. And of the two, I always thought Vitaly was the better boxer. Vlad been knocked out 3 times before he got in the ring with AJ. Vitaly never been off his feet. Only time I've ever seen Vitaly hit the canvas is think it was against Thomas Adamek or Adamek, depending on how you want to say it. Polish guy that came up from lightweight, cruiserweight, and eventually the heavyweight guy that had lost to Chad Dawson. He tripped over his own feet and fell. It wasn't a knockdown, but that's the only time I can recall him ever being off his feet in a fight. Yeah, he had 2 stoppage losses, 1 on cuts, and he had fight where he dislocated his shoulder, I think against Chris Bird, and couldn't continue. But so yeah, when you look at his resume on paper, it looks like he's been knocked out twice, but he's never been knocked out. It was stoppage, a cut stoppage against Lennox Lewis, and that's Lennox Lewis. In a fight that he was actually winning. To a lot of eyes, he was winning that fight. And and Vitaly did something spectacular in taking 4 years, like almost 4 years off from the sport, came right back to the sport and took his title back in his first fight back. Beat Samuel Peter at the time. Samuel Peter was a dangerous fighter. He beat Samuel Peter down, made Samuel Peter quit on the stool. Sam Peter basically said, no, I'm done. I'm not going back out there. But so like I said, that's just just a little history on how I feel about the Klitschko. So yeah, I give Vlad credit. I give AJ credit for being Vladimir. But at the same time, you got to be realistic. Vladimir was old, 42 years old and coming off of a long layoff and a loss. First loss in almost 10 years or so or whatever. Because Emmanuel Stewart had Vladimir rolling. And Emmanuel Stewart, when Vladimir got AJ hurt, with Emmanuel Stewart in his corner, I don't think AJ gets out of that round. And if he does, he doesn't get out of the fight. We all know how Emmanuel Stewart was when it came to knockouts. I remember watching. I think it was Vlad fighting Sultan Ibragimov or some Timur Ibragimov, one of them guys. And I think it was at Madison Square Garden, years ago. And he was dominating the guy, just every round, just outboxing his ears off. Had the guy gun shy, whatever, but every time Vlad came to the corner, Emmanuel Stewart would eat his lunch, told him, knock this guy out. Emmanuel Stewart acted like he had somewhere to be. It's like, hey, I don't plan on being here all night. I'm not trying to be here 12 rounds. Knock this guy out so we can go. That was kind of the attitude he had. And, I love that about Emmanuel Stewart. Emmanuel Stewart was all about, he was all about exciting fight. He was all about knockout. He implored his guys to go for knockouts. And, you know what I'm saying? So I really like that about him. But I really, like I said, I think that if Vladimir was fighting AJ and, late great Emmanuel Stewart was still in his corner, I don't think, I think for one, he came into the fight with a different mentality from the start. And I think, I think he'd have went after AJ from the opening round, but and I don't know that AJ would have known what to do just with his inexperience at that point. But the fight happened as it happened. AJ got the win, and the rest is history. But like I said, getting back to my original topic is I just don't see any of these guys, even Vladimir Klitschko, if he came back from retirement. And what was to fight AJ at Wembley in April. I mean, that fight to me is, even less impressive of a fight as the first one, because there again you got Vlad coming off of another long layoff, and I'm just saying this hypothetically. I don't know of anyone kicking Vlad around as an opponent. I'm just saying this as just hypothetically speaking. But even Vlad, with all of his notoriety and recognition and his resume and all of that, the fact would be that he would be coming off of a long layoff again. Now he's coming in off of two consecutive losses, and one being a knockout. And it just I think the fight just it would be kind of an insult to everybody who wanted to see the big fight. So I'll just close on and say that while all of these guys may be deserving of a fight in some way, shape, form, or fashion, and and I mean, there's arguments for why any of the guys deserve a fight, and just as well as there are arguments why they don't deserve it. I mean, but the bottom line is, the guy can fight who he wants to fight, and who he should fight is, it's subjective depending on who you're talking to. But I think the fight that makes the most sense is the Wilder fight. I think that's the fight they need to concentrate on getting done. I think that's the fight that makes the most sense. I think that's the fight that makes the most money. He claims he wants to be a billionaire. He needs to, if that's the case, then he needs to go after the fight that gets him the most money. And I'll also say that, I'm hopeful that AJ gets past Povetkin without getting knocked out, without getting, taking too much damage. I mean, I can see a scenario where he goes in there and dominates Sasha, but I can also see a scenario where he gets caught with a punch and gets dropped and gets hurt badly and either gets knocked out or barely survives the fight. And if he got knocked out or if he lost a decision or whatever, I don't think he'd lose a decision. But if he lost the fight, then you're looking at that April could be a rematch between the two of them, and even that isn't as big as the Wilder fight, because now AJ's the challenger trying to win back his titles, and probably wouldn't be favored if he's knocked out. He probably wouldn't be favored to avenge that loss. And then, and who's to say that Povetkin's coming to UK and he knocks AJ out, he may not want to come back to the UK for rematch. It may be, if you want this rematch, you're going to come to Russia and get this rematch, or we won't have a rematch. I don't know. I don't know what's in the contract. I don't know what kind of rematch clause they have. I mean, who knows? We may be taken for a ride, being taken for a ride. They may already have a 2-fight deal in place. Who knows? Might be a deal in place where Povetkin getting a rematch. Who knows? I mean, my whole point is that no matter what we're getting, if it's not Wilder and AJ, it's not. It's like going to the steakhouse and ordering a hamburger. You went in there to get some steak, and they tell you that the cut of steak you want they don't have, but they have really great hamburgers, and you settle for a hamburger no matter how good it was. You in the back of your mind, you're thinking, man, I really wanted that porterhouse steak, and I know that porterhouse steak would have been good. So, they're to the point where, I think they're kind of scraping and scratching, trying to figure out what they're going to do if Wilder chooses not to fight them. But at the end of the day, if Wilder don't fight them, it's their own fault. They need to put some respect on that man's name, respect him as a champion, respect him as the longest current reigning champion. Respect him as the WBC champion, and if he beats Fury, they need to respect him as the WBC and lineal champion. And come to the table like they want to make a fight, not like they're trying to avoid making a fight. So, if they do those things, I think the fight can happen. But as far as all these other guys, I just don't see it, being, I don't even see the point of them putting the extra seats in Wembley unless they're giving the seats away, or their ticket prices are so cheap that people just gonna come in and fill it up anyway. But like I say, I'm one of the guys all about seeing the best fight the best, and I want to see that fight. I don't want a fat hamburger when I went to go order me some steak. So, with that said, I'm gonna close it out and just say, I want to give a shout out to all the real fans out there. Anybody watching my video, ask that you please like, share, comment, subscribe. Just like I said in my other videos, just help me get my name out there. I'm trying to build my channel. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your viewership. And I appreciate everybody's out there putting in work, putting in good videos, putting out good content. Regardless of what you're pushing. Regardless of what you're pushing, regardless of who you're supporting, I appreciate everybody's out there putting out content. Gives us something to talk about, gives us something to look at. Especially, for me, myself right now, I'm a huge college football fan. That's probably the sport I love just as much. I don't love it as much as boxing, but it's right there with it. And that, the thing is, you got a schedule, when the games are coming on, so you can count on that like saying you watch. But when college football isn't going on, I'm really, really grasping at things to do with my time in my free time that I would be watching football. So getting on here talking about boxing or getting on here listening to people and comment, and I stay in everybody's comment section, especially a lot of the new media LDBC guys, stay in the comments. So it's only fitting for me, the next step is to go ahead and start making my own videos and start pushing my own views out there, and chop it up a little bit. Time felt like it was time to get off that bench. So I just asked anybody, just like, share, subscribe, comment. And on that note, I'm gonna get on out of here. I appreciate your viewership. Y'all have a good day. Peace.